All right, chat. Hello. It looks like we are live,
What up?
and this is the end of the month, even though the month hasn't actually ended. Book club stream, but I think I can be excused this time because it's Halloween observed, and I'll be at YomaCon next weekend. I'm not live streaming. I'm gonna go be a super nerd. But yeah, so this month was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which is one of the classic movie monsters going back to, I read the 1818 text, although there is a longer, like second edition, I guess, that she put out in like 1830 or something. When she probably because she needed more money. But this is absolutely a classic. It is arguably one of the first science fiction novels out there. Completely unlike anything I would have assumed from, like, I don't know, spoofs and homages and shows that have done Frankenstein bits and Addams Family and all that. This is nothing like what pop culture portrays Frankenstein as, in my opinion.
Well, can I just say, I think the closest that I've seen, I was going to say the closest I think I've seen done from like a Hollywood kind of studio was TNT did a version with I think it was like Scorsese or something. It was like a made-for-TV movie, and Robert De Niro was the monster, and that was probably the closest that I can think of. It's been a while since I saw that version of it, but like the monster was a little bit more sympathetic. He wasn't just this corpse shambling around, randomly murdering people. Although that did happen, but you know what I mean. The classic portrayal is he's got the arms out like a zombie and whatever. But I thought that was probably the closest one to the book that I found.
Okay, so you consumed the story for the book club this month via an audiobook reading available on YouTube. Do you know if you had the 1818 text or the second edition?
It said that it was the 1818 text, so
okay, cool.
I believe that it was.
Did you notice that Victor Frankenstein doesn't actually explain how he used corpses? He does. They actually avoided saying that.
Yeah, so I thought that I missed something. Like I was listening to it, and I'm listening at work, so I'm also doing stuff. But
honestly, that entire chapter was just poorly written.
Yeah, it was really blocky. Like I was like, wait a minute. So he's bringing in corpses, and I'm thinking of how much they set it up in pop culture of it's alive, and he's running around, and there's like set pieces going off and all this other stuff. None of that was in the book.
I didn't even realize
it was like, now he has a monster. It's like, what? Wait a minute. Where is any of it? What happened? I was like, did I miss it? And go back. Yeah. No, it's not there.
Honestly,
it's really weird.
I thought he had prepped the body and then had his fever breakdown, and later he would bring it to life. And then I was just like, so why does he think it's already stalking him? He hasn't done anything. It's just a body down there, isn't there? And then it's gone, and he just doesn't think twice about it. Oh, well, okay, it's gone. Out of sight, out of mind. It's somebody else's problem.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a plot hole. I was like, well, is he going crazy? And then it felt like they were trying to play up that, well, maybe the doctor is crazy. He went nuts from sorrow and all the other shit that he was going through. But obviously throughout the book, it's like, no, he's really is being stalked by this thing. But yeah, him not trying to like put attention on it was really weird. I was like, so this thing just is out there and you don't care? Like, what?
Yeah, so there is an element that, okay, so maybe something that needs to be noticed when discussing this is Mary Shelley wrote this when she was like 21 or something like that.
Allegedly, but go ahead.
Allegedly. Okay, so my woke revisionist copy from Penguin Random House is pretty clear on that.
Yeah, it's definitely made by her. No way it was by her husband influencing or her husband's friends or any of that, but that's fair. I mean, maybe at 21 she did.
Well, honestly, it's not. The structure of the book is great. The content is fine, but there's a lot of stupid bad writing in this book. So I actually believe that a lot of this gets explained as she was in her 20s. She simply was not a mature writer when this came out. It's just that she hit on something that resonated with people. And what really made it take off was when people started stealing it for stage plays and so on, putting their own spin on it. Not necessarily the precise execution of the story, right?
Right. It could have been better, but
There was clearly an element that she got to later in the story, and I think she just didn't work earlier, where Victor is intentionally avoiding explaining things in his retelling to Walter. Which I think is actually a clever touch, where, at the end, he outright says, "No, I'm not going to tell you how to make a daemon." Like,
right.
do you want this curse? It's bad. This knowledge needs to die with me.
Right.
And I think if this had been written today, it would have been rewritten to be a very clearly unreliable narrator. There would have been a constant tension of doubt of, is this a Jekyll and Hyde setup where there is no monster, it's just him, and he's the one that's been broken. Like, his brother is getting too close to, his childhood friend or something, so he strangled him or something. There's no alternate reading.
It was there, like it was waiting to be said that way in the book. As I was, as I'm listening to it, I'm like, so we're gonna find out that the doctor is really a murderer, and then a big reveal later. But she kind of played with it, but didn't really write it that way. So,
I'm not sure if that would have improved the story, though.
Right. I'm not sure it would have
either. So obviously this is the big story of man creating life, playing God and regretting it. And according to the introductions and the forewords and all the crap I had to read at the front content of my copy, when this book came out, a lot of people got pissed off with it and called it depraved and the product of a deranged mind. And by the time I finished it, I kind of see where they're coming from, where it's just like, she keeps drawing parallels to God and Adam, even though the relationship between Victor and the creature is nothing like God and Adam.
Yeah.
It's the loosest of relationships, which sort of, okay, I see that, because it's, the difference between a child supported and raised and a child cast out into the world and spurned. So, but I can see where someone would take that as saying, like, this is just insulting.
Well, and also is all of the subtext, or even as a metaphor, that the Frankenstein monster is the underclass created by the spoiled elites, and for the romanticist time, for the romanticists of that time, that was like just pre-Marxism. Like there was a lot of that brewing.
Yep. So the main academic speculation is that what was on her mind largely was the fact that she was raised without her mother. Mary Shelley's mother died when she was like 3. And the impression from her letters and the conclusion of her contemporaries and so on is that she had a very neglectful father. So in a way, this is basically a big self-insert, is what the academics say about the creature. Which, by the way, if it was created by Victor Frankenstein, Frankenstein's a family name. The monster is a Frankenstein. Like, come on.
Yeah, he needs to take his bastard child in, damn it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, just seeing his psychosis over everything, it wasn't completely explained either. It's kind of like,
a lot of things just
Frankenstein's, his trauma and all that stuff, and him like trying not to lose those that he lost. It seemed like a little bit of it in the background, but I don't know. It was like, so there was some things that weren't really the striking home of why it was created and what his intent was, any of that really.
Yeah, the story gets stronger in the second half when it's very clearly a trauma cycle. It's it's Victor injures the creature injures Victor injures the creature, except back and forth, causing each other, driving each other into despair. That half I thought worked quite well, but a lot of the setup getting to that, especially the complete lack of reason for Victor to have had a breakdown at seeing it come alive, and then it just escapes into the woods to live in confusion for a while. Like that half of the book, I think, was like notably weaker.
Yeah.
I think there was just a lot of stuff happening and setting up that it just kind of happened. It's like, okay, now the story is starting, is when the first murder finally happens, was the impression I had.
Yeah, that's fair. That first act really took a while.
I was shocked that there was a framing device of going to the North Pole. Like I didn't understand what I was reading when it started with the letters from Walter.
Oh
Did
yeah,
you even know
me
that was
neither.
part of the story going in?
I did, but only because of the TNT movie. I remember it. It was so different from, and it wasn't. It wasn't Scorsese. It was Ken. I don't know. He's a famous Shakespearean actor, director. Kenneth Branagh. That's it. I think he was the one that directed it. Anyways, yeah. At the beginning of that, I just remember there. I'm not sure if maybe it was at the very end, but I do remember in there. I was like, "What the hell is Frankenstein doing in the Arctic? Like, that's not anything to do with Frankenstein, right?" No, it has a lot to do with Frankenstein. So,
Apparently.
and like you were saying, it was a total mood frame, like the desolate, frozen, unhumane or inhumane environment of the Arctic, and this like bid for survival, and you're being chased, to death, right? Like that was the whole point of the opening of being in the Arctic, in my opinion, was just to get that built up in your mind of this survival, this fight for survival.
Out of curiosity, have you watched or I guess read The Endurance?
No, I don't know what that is.
It is the movie, which apparently very faithfully tells the story, or you could read the actual novel written by the survivors of the Shackleton expedition.
Okay.
Oh god, I should have checked what year that was if that came out after Frankenstein, but it was a crew trying to find, I believe, a Western Passage, and they got stuck in Arctic ice, or either Arctic or Antarctic ice or something. As you can see, I have not watched the movie; I just know of it. But they got their ship stuck in ice for like several months of starvation.
Yikes.
And eventually the ship got free, and I think most of the people survived after one of just the most horrific winters you could imagine, of no food, no fuel, no nothing, no hope.
Yeah. I'm sure I've heard of it.
I've really been wanting to dig into that because it has to just be like the pinnacle of natural horror. It's like that and spelunking going wrong.
Oh gosh. Yeah, right. Oof.
So I was actually like really pulled in with the initial premise of trying to sail to the North Pole, even though Mayor Shelley clearly doesn't understand what the North Pole is.
Yeah, well, either that, I mean, it's that, and it's like, why was he really up that far? And it just, some stuff, it didn't make a lot of sense of why he would go, well, I need to draw the monster way out here. It's like, why way out there? First of all, there was that whole scene where
the monster took Victor there.
Oh, he was chasing him. That makes sense.
It's because the monster doesn't mind the cold, and he wanted to torture Victor.
Yeah, and they prove that in the lake scene, right? There was a lake scene in Germany or something like that, and the monster's like, "Yeah, this is fine." He's like running across icebergs and shit, and jumping across the lake, and then, yeah, he's like way stronger and everything, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, don't go into the Arctic. Clearly, that would be good for the monster, not you.
No. So I thought it was clear that Victor understood that that he it was a weird problem because like he knew that what he was doing would be torturous on himself, and he didn't care if his entire family had been murdered by it.
Yeah.
What kind of confused me was that he didn't realize the food being left out for him to keep him alive, because during the chase, when he's just like running across Europe to try and chase down the creature,
the monster,
he's coming across the supplies he needs, and he's like, "Oh, some kind spirit must be out to help me, so I can get my vengeance." And she's like, "No, that's the creature.
Yeah,
making sure that your suffering does not end early."
Is it like the Reese's Pieces trail from ET or whatever?
I was like, how does a smart man not realize that he's being toyed with? Like, I thought that was just like an obvious thing of like, he should realize the monster is toying with him, and that just embitters him more.
Yeah, that could be. And, and his obsession and all that with the monster at that point, because their lives have been so intertangled. Like the monster murdering everybody, like his family and everything. It's like, maybe you shouldn't deny your bastard son, I guess.
Okay, so there is one very strange fact that you just have to accept when reading Frankenstein.
All right.
Which is that the entire premise of the tragedy is he is so catastrophically ugly that people attack him on sight.
Yes. Know the feeling. No.
It's just like I made a snarky post about that on Twitter because I was just like, okay, you can tell this was before the internet because there is some horrible, bizarre people that will intentionally go get obsessed with plastic surgery, as an example.
Oh,
that
yeah.
look far worse than any movie rendition of Frankenstein. Like, I personally can't conceive of someone so ugly that you would attack them.
Well, and my thing is like the decomposed body parts. That's the only thing I could think of why he'd be so horrendous. But in his description, it's just like he has yellow skin or something, right? Like, it's not like he's decaying, but he's a corpse. So, tell me, at what point was his body not decaying? Like, how far did it get down that, because it happens pretty quick.
It magically stops, though, because he spends years living in the woods. And he can heal, for the record. He gets shot by a gun and heals. And not particularly fast either. That's kind of the weird thing. It was like, oh, my diet is coarse, and I ignore the, so he gets shot before he...
See, I took it was just because he was like a mindless, I'd say, I guess not mindless, right? He's very intelligent. But at the same point, he has that like undead, won't stop, can't stop kind of feel to him. So it was like, yeah, he got shot, but is he even really alive? I don't know. It's not really said that he has a heartbeat, and I don't remember that. So
true, that's never stated. But honestly, his ploy with DeLacy, which for anyone tuning in who hasn't read the book, there are 3 volumes of Frankenstein. The first volume is basically the creation of the creature. The second volume is the creature's story of his life after accidentally leaving Victor's workshop, essentially. And then the third is the conflict between the two of them. And the second one, he just ends up in like the German countryside, living in the woods until he finds a ramshackle hole next to a cottage and somehow lives there for like over a year without ever being spotted by the people living there.
Yeah, he's the spirit in the woods or whatever. Yeah,
they never notice the eye looking in from between the wall.
Yeah,
they never go in a year and a half that he's there. They don't actually go clean up the hovel they're living next to use it for something. They don't notice the footsteps.
They never question. Yeah, no footsteps in snow or mud. Like they never question. They never really question like this stack of firewood that's sitting there. So now they don't have to, the former nobleman family doesn't have to work, right? They can just live off of the work of other people and do their art or whatever, poetry. And yeah, he's just a kind spirit in the woods. It's like,
yeah. Okay. So honestly, I thought his ploy with the blind man of talking to him, rationalizing with him, should have worked. Oh, like if this were like a rigorously realistic story and not like, science fiction allegory, essentially. This were like an actual event, he would not have been chased out and shot by the kids.
I don't know. Refresh my memory.
So as he's living in the hole in the wall, that's when he learns language, essentially. He spends several months there, and he spends months and months going, how can I approach these people without being attacked? Because he has already been attacked, ran out of town, shot multiple times for basically every human he's ever encountered.
These people suck. Yeah.
And he wants friends. He wants compassion. That's the creature's driving motivation. Is he's lonely, essentially. He's isolated. There's no one in the world that can give him the fruits of life, essentially. Which later turns into my creator, you must make me a wife.
Right.
And his strategy to approach them and actually befriend them and join the people that he views as friends, even though it's a fully parasocial relationship. This was people watching streamers in 200 years ago, basically. He waits until the kids are gone and then goes into the cottage where the old blind father can only hear his voice and won't see him physically and realize that he's a monster. So they talk and chat. And you kind of see that the father gets a little nervous because there's clear panic in the creature's tone and attitude. And then the kids just interrupt, scream,
they come home or something, right?
They chase the monster out and beat him with a stick. And then they vanish forever. He can track Victor Frankenstein across the world, but he can't find the DeLacy's again.
Well, you don't need them anymore, so I think it would have been better.
The story doesn't need them. And by the way, did you notice that the story it had to give him some books to read because the story needed the creature to be an intelligent, rational being. So they just drop Plutarch's Lives into his lap, and they just hand him Paradise Lost and hand him The Sorrows of Werther, just like he magically finds a cloak that fits his stature because he needed one.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's kind of, and I hate to come back to it, but again, I think it's a little bit of the after the Enlightenment, the masses were more educated on general than the former serfs, and so one of the things that I've heard talked about part of the book is that she's referencing basically the backlash on the noble elite of having an intelligent, or at least a well-read proletariat is it's going to come back on the nobleman, was the idea.
Right. So I did hear some speculation that this was rather heavily influenced by the French Revolution.
Right.
I didn't cross-reference the chronology, even though the copy I have does actually lay out all the events. From her life to the publication and the spans of time, such I hate dates. But the book does clearly say that, like, you can read this as an allegory for the French Revolution, where it was the nobles accidentally created a middle class, and the middle class turned against them for not being given the respect of human decency and respect,
right?
Which led to off of their heads. We need our civil rights. We actually, by the way, surrender your natural rights. The state will give you rights instead.
Whoops.
Another problem.
Well, and I think a lot of that individual freedom is obviously the ideology that helped spawn the American Constitution. So, although there are parts of those ideas that are correct, the way they pulled it off was probably not the best. Murder everybody is like, oops, and that is very, very much what the indignant monster does. He's like, I'm ugly to you. I can't fit into your society. Although I can quote, Paradise Lost or whatever, and all this other stuff, and clearly he's not a dullard, right?
Like
somehow
incredibly intelligent and well spoken.
This corpse and animated it with a spirit that was not dumb. So, oops, again, oops. But
that is a huge divergence between the text and the adaptations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's always a dummy, because there's a damaged brain, right? Abby normal and all that. Yeah.
But honestly, making the creature a hyper intelligent, rational creature, as smart as its creator, arguably smarter, perhaps, except that he doesn't understand the technique of animation. I think if he was just a brute, that would have greatly reduced the story, because it would have just been, oh, there's a monster, rally some people and shoot it to death.
It wouldn't have been interesting, for sure. Because he did come out and did question things like morality and ethics in the Doctor. It's like, well, how can you create me and leave me to be this way and stuff? Yeah.
The problem is he's actually spot on of just like, you created me. You have responsibilities to me. You bestowed me with life and then denied me all of its pleasures.
Right.
So, that makes Victor Frankenstein sympathize with him, and it makes a reasonable reader sympathize with the monster.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand.
Like, okay, but was murdering his brother really the way to make your point there?
Yeah. Oops. Oh, yeah, he's a psychopath. No, I mean, making the monster sympathetic by making him an incel, totally understandable. He's like, well, you can't get laid, you can't fit into society. He turns on his creator. So just keep that in mind.
Man, do we just find the real
incels.
story here? This is the first incel mass murderer.
Not laughing at the mass murder part, but the first literature incel. Perhaps you may be right.
What we see here is Mary Shelley saying that no, it is the duty of the parents to arrange a marriage for their kids. Otherwise, they will be horrible losers.
I mean, I don't disagree. As a parent, yeah, I am very much for arranged marriages. Let's say I'm not against it, but that way, I get it. I understand.
That is a difficult nut to crack there, because I've spoken with people that I work with a lot of Indians, and they still do arranged marriage, and the way, or at least so, obviously Indians that are working here in America on visas.
Yes.
The reason it works right now is because it's relatively easy for an Indian to move to America. And basically all the ones I've spoken to is just like, yeah, I mean, like, I have childhood friends back home that they're great people. I get along with them. I'd be happy to spend my life with them if my parents arranged it. However, if they arranged me to a cow, you know, maybe I shouldn't use that example because it's Hindi. But like, if they
might like that.
Like their partner, they're just like, well, I have the option of bye see. I'm going to America, never to see you again. So that gives
like, that's all right. I don't like him anyways. Just give me the money.
Safety feature. Because obviously that's the downside of arranged marriages is you like, okay, there's only so many kids in the village. So not all the matches are going to work very well.
Well, that and not being hitching with somebody for the rest of your life, theoretically, just based on emotions at the time, you know, like maybe coming into it as an arranged deal, keep your head on your shoulders a little bit easier. But you know, people are like, no, I want what I want. You know, I don't like her. It's like, you'd be surprised who you do like doesn't always turn out to be the best one. You know.
Okay, so maybe we should drag this back to Frankenstein.
Yeah, moving on.
That is the conflict point at the 2/3 mark. Is the creature makes his demand of, I will cast you into the deepest despair. I'll kill everything that you cherish unless you make me a wife. And that's where you get the spin-offs, The Wife of Frankenstein, and so on. And Victor is swayed by that, and he starts to make it until he realizes that, well, if I do this, I'm creating a second problem. The creature may be reasonable and he may keep his word, but I have no reason to think that this new creation will be better or even remotely as good, or let alone their children.
And he was concerned about them creating a whole new race of monsters, right?
Yes, there is like an implicit statement that it wouldn't be a wife if she was infertile.
Well, I mean, being a corpse, but they get around all that. I think early on, because I had mentioned it earlier, he's a corpse. They don't even mention that he has a heartbeat and that he's even alive. But I think they get around that early on, because she not only did she mention some of the like Paradise Lost and some of the big books, you know, was it Plotinus maybe, but she mentions those things. But earlier on, she mentions Hermetic philosophers like Agrippa and stuff like that, and trying to explain the mystical side of this golem, right, in a sense, or this corpse having a spirit inhabit it, you know, this dead matter, you know, and so I think that she gets around it with the mysticism of, well, you know the scientific process of having kids and shit, you know, like the actual natural process is moot at this point because it's all mystical.
So do you think that, all right, do you think there was a particular reason that the creature couldn't learn its own method of self-creation and do it itself?
It didn't say that there was, but I'll say that not even Frankenstein understood how he did it, from what I remember, but he knew he wasn't going to try it again.
Well, he got really far through the process. He was confident after discussing with the English philosophers, apparently,
he's like, I can do it.
Could make the second.
Yeah. Well, wait, I can. But in the end, I mean, he never clearly said that he knew what he was doing to begin with. So, is that the narrator you can't trust, right? So perhaps there's a little bit of that. Perhaps it was just him going along with it and saying, yeah, I can do it, and you're right. And full of false confidence because he didn't know what he did to begin with.
So obviously the plot is a revenge cycle, and that's when it gets the strongest and best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But there kind of felt like there was a nagging issue of like, well, why doesn't the creature just learn how to do it himself, go through the same process? It's not like he is expecting to die soon or something. Why can't he just go to the charnel houses, to the cemeteries, and do the same research that his creator did and do it himself?
Well, one, they never exactly say that he is a scientific mind, whereas they do say that about the doctor. But they do talk about the monster being more like of the artistic side of things, right? Reading books, art, enjoying those things. But they never talk about that. I can remember they didn't talk about him enjoying any of the scientific literature or even delving into it.
That's a good point.
Like the doctor, he clearly does, and she kind of fights with, I wouldn't say it's a real fight, but it's a little lightly treads on their modern science and the past philosophers, where she was like, well, he learned like from like Agrippa and a bunch of these other Iron Age philosopher types, and but she makes a comment of how it was to interact or it was counter to the his peers all learning modern science, and so they laughed at him for all of his attempts at whatever he was doing. And that was one of the things that made him, that embittered him to keep trying so hard to do what he was trying to do. He's like, no, this will work, because these old masters or old philosophers, they showed me that it will, or whatever.
I actually liked that form of motivation. So he basically got a rebellious instinct after his father made fun of him for looking at the old sources. But he makes a good point of, the ancients were trying to grapple with the fundamental nature of being human, which is immortality and youth and creating life and understanding the spirit. Whereas all these new people are just like, look at me, I can refine a new alloy that will make plows 10% lighter.
Right. I can make a factory.
Okay, that is clearly very important. It makes living life better in the aggregate of all these advances.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you even at the end of it, you solve all these material problems of the earth, they will never give the answer to like from whence comes our life. Where do we go after we die, and so on? How can this be changed, and so on?
Why are we here?
That desire is baked into being human.
Yes.
So yeah. Some people are still going to chase after the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
There's some weird technology going on right now, which I like to pilfer from my writing. By the way,
a lot of that transhumanist,
not so subtle. Hey, check out the link to my Cyberpunk.
Yeah, a little self plug. Nothing wrong with that. I don't like that whole transhumanist kind of stuff. Is lightly talking about that, in my opinion. Lightly, they could really get into it. I haven't seen a lot of comparisons between Frankenstein and necessarily transhumanism, other than these ideas of Frankenstein become what we have today as transhumanism.
Sure.
But
out of curiosity, are you familiar with that modern vampire guy? God, I should know his name because I've referenced him so many times.
Modern vampire guy? I don't know.
I call him a vampire because he is a longevity guy. Except the way that he is extending his health and life is by he had a son almost clearly for the purpose of extracting the son's blood and injecting it into himself.
Wow. That's fucking psychopathic, but go ahead.
Well, studies show it works.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Youthful blood and all that. And yeah, I mean, regardless of all the QAnon stuff, the adrenochrome and all that, that's a real thing. It really does seem to keep youthful I mean, it's, of course, it makes sense to me because it will have, like, a youthful body will have, different blood in it than, say, an 80-year-old man. I'm not surprised. I'm not a blood guy or whatever, or vampire, but I'm not surprised that it works,
Yeah, they don't know exactly what is in the blood that's different. It has to be in like the proteins and the small, like the antibodies and so on. There's something that is degrading over time.
Sure.
But yeah, that brings back to the point though of it is part of human nature to want to defy death, which that's an explicit point. He was researching it and concludes that his path of research with the bodies and the lightning will not bring back the dead. It will just create new life from the earth, from the material components.
Right. Good point. Yeah. Yeah, because that corpse that he animates, we never know that it is the original person that is brought back,
Well, the corpse is made out of a conglomerate of bodies.
Yeah,
what original person would it be?
Good question, right? It was like, where's the seat of the soul kind of question.
Apparently in a bolt of lightning, energy from heaven.
I mean, sure, why not?
Hey, it worked for Vision in MCU, okay?
Well, the dielectric effect of the aether, sure, why not? That could happen.
All right. Let's see here. Did you like the ending to the book? Spoilers, by the way.
Did I like the ending? I didn't hate it. Like they both die. It wasn't that.
It's a tragic ending.
Yeah,
you can like tragic endings, but it's hard to say that they're. Oh yeah, it's super uplifting to see Victor Frankenstein freeze to death in the Arctic, and then his creator sort of cry and then go kill himself.
Yeah. There was a nice little paragraph soliloquy or something at the end that I think that the captain was writing. I wish I had written it down or memorized it, but that I did enjoy. It was towards, it was if I remember right, it was the captain recapping what the fuck he just witnessed. Like these madmen come out of nowhere and he's stuck on the Arctic and all this other shit. So that was interesting, but I still feel that I don't know, there was something missing a little bit out of the ending, and I was like, well, maybe it's just because it's a book from 1818 or whatever, and so because the older books, they hit different, right? Different culture, society, and all that stuff. So, but I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was terrible, and I did like the fact that it ended where it began, because it brings you back to that framing that we had talked about earlier in the Arctic, and just that survival and the the bleakness of it all and things like that.
By the way, I think that there is a strong argument to be made that the Arctic is actually as close to hell on Earth as you can get. I think
sure.
It's significantly worse than even the worst desert.
I mean, I guess on land, because I don't know. I assume like the bottom of the ocean would be just as bad.
That's bad. Fair. But it's the ninth circle of hell, right?
Right. Gehenna. Yeah.
That's actually another book I need to read. I haven't actually read The Divine Comedy.
Oh no, it's good. Except for I disagree with all the philosophers being in hell. That's a bit much.
Are they in purgatory?
Maybe you're right. Is it purgatory in that one?
I think they're in purgatory, where the explanation is that like everyone pre-Christ is just serving out some time in purgatory, and
until they accept him or something, right? Yeah, it's just like really monotonous.
Maybe we should do Divine Comedy, like Inferno, as one of the future book clubs.
It'd be a good one. You get a lot of eyes on that one. Yeah, it's been probably 20 years since I even read that one. That'd be good. I also want to do one second, not to get too far, but I want to get back into this Brave New World. I think it'd be poignant, and I really liked the book. The Sci-Fi Channel series they did, I enjoyed that as well. I thought it was a really good version of it, but sorry, that's all rant.
Actually, I'm kind of bringing that up because I don't have November's book locked in. Over in my Gilded, I discussed with the people that have joined the book club, which, by the way, chat, the link is in the description to join the book club, and you too can come on this stream if you want. But yeah, I kind of just posed the question because like last month I made a joke of it that I'm just being a tyrant and choosing the books I want to read. But I kind of recognize that that's going to be a little hit or miss, and it's a little selfish. So I posed it to the
Frankenstein
group.
Was good.
What should November's book be? And that discussion was a little short. I'm still trying to grow the book club, obviously. You can tell by the fact there's 3 people watching. But what I'm probably going to choose is Wuthering Heights, which is another classic that I personally haven't read either.
No, I haven't read it.
I think it's in that perfect category of people recognize it and go, yeah, I should probably read that at some point. And now I'm trying to, here's a reason, because there's actually like a group that will go through and dig into it. But I've never actually heard someone say they liked Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, the few times I've heard parts that people liked about it, but never like, this is the best book, on this subject. But it's never the full I liked it all kind of stuff. So, but I'd be interested just to see what why it's considered a classic.
Yeah, so if I don't get a better suggestion that really starts a fire over in the chat, I'll probably be doing Wuthering Heights. I'm very happy with Frankenstein. I think this is a great choice for study and dissection. There's definitely elements from this that should be broadly applied to stories. And I also like that it's not a hero's journey. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed that as well. That it was a little, I wouldn't say subversive, but the fact that now everything, they have, if it doesn't have a hero's journey kind of arc or whatever, then they have to subvert the hero's journey arc, But in this, it was like, it wasn't even really in there at all. It was so removed from modern
characters with motivations that come into conflict with each other and drive each other into despair. It works perfectly as a story, and it just doesn't get it. You can't smash it into Joseph Campbell's mold.
No, I don't think you could either.
So I'm happy with this choice. Fingers crossed, whatever comes in for November will also be good. And by the way, we do have someone in chat saying that arranged marriages are a bit iffy when arranged divorces where one party has a lot of benefits to do so. Well, can't say he's wrong there.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
So what was some of the best parts of the book that you did like? Either the way it was written or just some of the prose or anything? I will say, I know I asked you, but I did like some of the way that it was written. Some of the prose. I like that, like the way that she spoke, or you know what I mean? I listened to the audiobook, but just the way that it came out was really pretty, compared to today, where the words don't get very big. They don't get very complex in ideas. But this one was back to that Romanicist 1800s literature that I like it. It's a lot. It's very rich. So, it takes a minute to kind of digest it all, but it's really enjoyable. And it's a shame that it's not, used more often.
I'm with you. Whenever I wasn't going, excuse me, where did that magical contrivance just come from? Whenever that wasn't on my mind, I was just like, ooh, I'm really enjoying this. I definitely got pulled in. I enjoyed reading it. It had that old-timey issue of describing women by just like repeating all their good virtues about them. And well, that's not just women. It's just most egregious when it's talking about like Elizabeth. But like the guys are also described as, oh, he's such a wonderful fellow, and he's smart and wise and noble. And, okay, I guess that's actually a useful way to describe a character for a story.
Well, I find it interesting because my family loves Little Women. Like they watch it every year, I think, and it reminded me a lot of that. Is where it's like they go on about, oh, he's so handsome, and it's that kind of like feminine kind of thing. But I just wonder if isn't that not just the Romanicist coming out in it, because they do that about like the environment a lot too, where like they kind of compare like the environment that a character is in as having like certain human traits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Maybe that's just my style preference coming out, which is kind of a silly thing. So if you ever read one of my books, I don't really describe the characters physically much. And here I am complaining about not getting physical descriptions.
That's funny. Well, and I've also heard like, oh yeah, don't describe your characters. Let the reader imagine them as they want to. And I think that's interesting because a lot of times people create their, obviously they create the image of the character in their own mind, and they even read it in, certain like what am I trying to say, like in certain speech patterns that the writer didn't intend. So and that's kind of the fun part about being a writer, is to see how other people read your characters, and see their personalities. But sure. Yeah.
Jedediah here makes a very good point. Frankenstein ain't a transhumanist predecessor. It's evil AI as a predecessor.
AI turning hostile. Interesting. Yeah.
By the way, have you ever read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream?
No.
Very good short story. You can actually get an audiobook on YouTube read by the author.
Cool.
The whole thing's like 40 minutes. Totally worth your time. But that is an allied master computer that wipes out humanity and then spares 6 humans arbitrarily to torture them forever.
Why?
Because he hates humanity for making him.
Oh, I see. Wow.
There's actually now that I think about it, there's a very, very direct evolution from Frankenstein to Am.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
I did a video on it, which, by the way, Chad, you should totally subscribe to my channel, and you should smash that like button and leave a comment and such.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, no, really good. And yeah, I think Jed makes a pretty good point there. There is a constant fear that that mankind's creations will usurp them. If I was slightly more on the tip of my tongue with mythology, I could probably find stories going back thousands of years of golems attacking their creators. I bet.
Yeah, automatons and shit. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Obviously, I think it's a good fear to have. It's something to be aware of. But I don't know about the whole Skynet thing. I'm not really sold on it. It's going to turn on us. I suppose we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I like pointing out to people that 9 times out of 10, AI isn't doing anything that the mass of humanity isn't already doing.
Yeah. And a lot of it's WYSIWYG anyways, right? So, or garbage in, garbage out. So
that too. Well, I'm not afraid of ChatGPT writing novels, because I'm competing with hundreds of millions of people around the world also trying to
already.
Write novels. It's not a relevant. That's not going to move the needle.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the stories will still be good or not good. So.
All right, so we are coming into the very end here. I do try and keep these at 1 hour because...
Wait. I just want to say one thing, too, about the ChatGPT writing books, is that who's going to market the books? Is ChatGPT going to come on shows and sell their books? I doubt it.
ChatGPT could start a Twitter account and just start tweeting up a storm and probably do better than most people.
Than I do? Oh, definitely. I don't disagree. But it hasn't yet.
The market.
It would know its market better than us, right?
Yeah, it would.
It'd have all of the analyticals that it needs.
I don't know nearly enough about the people that are picking up my stories and enjoying them. I don't actually know how to cater. I'm just catering to myself at the moment, to be honest.
Why not? I'm sure Sherry did too, or Shelley did as well. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna write this story for me and my friends," and then it turned out to be good. So
yeah,
good.
All right, so
ChatGPT do that or whatever.
You want to take 5 minutes here and market what you're working on? Your links are in the description if it updated correctly.
Oh, sure. So I have a comic book right now. It's slowly growing into a bigger brand, but right now I have a comic book with 2 stories in it. It is a dark fantasy meets epic fantasy. So think of if Castlevania and Final Fantasy had a baby, it'd be very close to what my IP feels like. The art style is by Jose Garcia, so it's very anime manga-esque. He has bloody fingers from working in animation for I don't know how 10, 20 years or something like that. So his all of his work is professional, top-notch, and gorgeous. And I was just fortunate enough to give him some good stuff to draw, and it came out really well. getting some good reviews. So, and it is 2 stories in one. The main story is like a team story where these 5 strangers they are forced together to fight in a war that they are completely clueless about. And they're trying to figure out in this first story what the hell is even going on and who each other is. So, and then the second part of the story is from like the gods' perspective. So you see the good gods and the evil gods aligning their pieces on the chessboard on this planet that is the host to the main story. So, and that will be a thing going forward. I'm going to try to have the 2 stories in each book. So the first one is already funded. We funded a while ago. I've fulfilled a lot of the physical books. All the digital should be fulfilled by now. And number 2 is already finished, but I'm doing the editing. I'm going back and taking out dialogue and stuff that I was like, you know what, I don't need that after all. And the artist wants to clean up some stuff because it was done a while ago. So we're just going to be touching everything up, fleshing it out a little bit better. And I'm hoping to launch issue 2 in early next year. I want to say March or April, like I did this year. So I also have a 10-page story in Anvil Magazine 2. It's set in the universe of Immortal Rising. That is Behemoth's Child. Great little short story. It doesn't have anything to do with Immortal Rising #1, so it's in Immortal Rising Tales #1. And I think it's something that if it's popular enough, I'll keep putting out like short stories from the main universe that aren't connected directly to the main story. So because people seem to like it. So that's where you can catch all my Immortal Rising goodness. Oh yeah, and my channel is super fun. I've got this really cool backdrop because I am trapped in a mystical dungeon by a demon of despair named Black Chad. And I interview and talk to creators such as James here. He was on my show a couple weeks ago.
You all should go check out that video.
Yeah, we do trivia. It's not a complain and bitch about Ahsoka stuff or Disney or whatever. Instead, we try to have fun, make fun of stuff, and we do trivia about what the creator is into. So, like with James, we did some cyberpunk stuff, trivia.
I cleaned up on everyone else's trivia.
Yeah, it's true, you did. Come over, give me a sub and a like and all that stuff. And yeah, we're just trying to have a good time. There's no stitching and bitching.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Sure.
You're doing your story as a series of graphic novels, right?
Yes.
How long is that going to be? How do you plan that out?
So
let's assume that you get wild success, right?
Well, let's assume I get enough success to keep making them. So I plan on going out to I have it outlined out to about 20 books, 21 books to tell the overall story that I'm trying to tell. It'll take about that long. It could take a lot less if like I see that I'm not getting enough traction and I want to skip ahead maybe, or even say, I don't need to tell that part. Let me tell this other part instead, and jump around in time a little bit, or should say jump forward just to get to the ending. So it's not 20 books, but we'll see. I'm not afraid of doing, say, this story arc is 3 books. It's already written. I've already got, issue 2 is being edited now, that kind of thing. And then I may do, maybe I want to do some short stories to keep it in universe, and then tail that onto another set of graphic novels. So I'm not really sure how I want to approach that, and I'm kind of taking it book by book as far as for now.
Fair enough. I see the effort that people like you go to get these graphic novels into a crowdfunding, into a good campaign with add-ons and art prints,
stretch and
cards. There's so much effort, and not to mention cost involved with these things, that I'm kind of scared to do it.
Yep. It's scary to do. Like I kind of came up to the point where I had it all situated where, all right, I'm going to do this, this business through Amazon and all this stuff. I have all of my, everything looked into. I've got everything reference and ready to go. And all I got to do is just pull the trigger. I'm going to buy these things from a factory in China, and I'm going to do, sell it, whatever it was. And really, it comes down to I have no passion for that. I have no passion. It's not creative enough for me to stay interested in. And sure, I could run a small business selling things that I don't care about, or I could start a small business exactly about what I care about, So, yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. So the same amount of cash that I would be putting into a so-called small business is exactly what I expect to be putting into this, because this is my small business,
Yeah, if you're taking it seriously, it very, very quickly becomes a business.
Well, exactly. And I plan on doing this. So like Jose's art isn't going to get like worse, like it's not going to degrade in time. It will always be as good as it is right now. So I can go to
better, probably.
Well, his ability, yes, but the physical book or art that I own, it's not going to like, oh, it's suddenly terrible now, like, no, it'll always be as good as it is. So I can always go to a convention and sell these and slowly drum up money to make another issue. Relying on the crowdfunding is partial for marketing and partial to help pay for stuff. But right now it's so new. It's like a small business doesn't even start making profit for many years, depending on how you structure it and all that stuff. But this one isn't going to probably make money for at least a few more years. It'll just be breaking even most likely. So, but that's okay, because I can still make another one, and it's an investment that I see that even if my crowdfunding doesn't make 20K, 40K, whatever, some big number like that, it's okay, because I can still print them out and sell them face to face at conventions. I can sell them on Fund My Comic, where you can find mine now. And I will be actually doing a saddle stitch version with a different paper, glossy paper and all that, to bring down costs so that I can get them into local comic shops and make it more affordable, so that hopefully more people will be like, click, I want that.
Yeah, there was the guys over on Iron Age Nights, I think it was last week, had on crap, who was it? Out, and they had someone on where they were talking about the economics of printing right now.
Yes.
And how broken it is right now, how unreliable print shops are. The issue with, oh, wow, I sold to 500 people sounds great until you start looking at what that translates to as a per issue print price.
Yeah, you basically you're down 50 cents per yeah, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. And I've heard a little bit of why, theories of why that may be. Like, for instance, in the past, all these print houses were making tons of money out of things like catalogs. Well, there's not a lot of catalogs being created any longer, and so their old models, printing models, don't really work. Now it's going to be more print on demand, from what I can see. Especially from things like the tabletop sphere, and even like with novels and stuff, like, or comics. Like, I can't mass produce 1,000 comics and guarantee that I can sell all of those. I can't, or I can say, yeah, I can sell them, but in how many years, Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on. It's like, we need more print on demand kind of stuff. Or another thing would be, if which is basically translates into being a publishing house, but if you could get multiple indie guys together to say, I need this many, and then you print them all at the same time. But that takes a lot of coordination, a lot of cooperation. And at that point, you're just kind of a publishing house, right? So it's difficult.
That might be the future, man. Like, people have this love for, I'm a one-man business.
Yeah.
But there are reasons people incorporate. There are reasons you basically pay somebody to do the work that sucks to do. Because you do have to have someone, balancing your numbers, marketing, managing social media, managing stock, distributing, and call it. Some human has to go do all that.
It's okay to have specialists. It's all right.
Yeah. So the natural end state is, you'll probably end up with a handful of other creatives sharing the same infrastructure.
Right.
You're basically just wasting money if you don't end up like that. I think that's my prediction.
Well, if the prices are brought down by having mass amounts done, right? Then because like the setup time and all this, whatever their excuses are or reasonings, that's fine. But then we got to adapt to that. Like if I have, say, 100 physical books that need to be printed, and you've got 100 physical books that need to be printed, and if we team together, it would bring down both our costs by a couple $100 or something. Why wouldn't we try to do that? But getting people to cooperate and coordinate like that is not the easiest thing because so many people are self-focused.
And let's be honest, how many people miss deadlines?
Lots of deadline missing.
Yeah. So if you have 5 people, what are the chances that one of those 5 is going to miss their deadline and delay all 5 people's product?
You're gonna have to make sure the stuff's done before you all get together, I suppose.
There are some dangers, and unfortunately, the reason I keep asking about this is because I want to get into graphic novels as well. My plan is actually I'm going to do.
Love the art form; it's so fun to do.
I'm a huge manga guy, not big into comics, but okay, whatever. One has color, one doesn't.
Right.
I've got a short story that I want to turn into a single issue full story. You get your product and it's done. Here, look, there's going to be no dangling threads. There's no, it's just a finished product. Hey, check this out. I proved that I can do it.
Yeah.
And then start trying to use that as a stepping stone to get into like, okay, so this would be a more long running thing. And by the way, when I'm crowdfunding that, I can run more print issues of the original product. Maybe something like that.
Yeah. Well, making a graphic novel it's a labor of love, man. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, depending on who you have working with you and all that stuff. And but then like the crowdfunding and knowing all of the ins and outs of creating a campaign page that doesn't look hacky and amateurish, all that stuff matters. Like if I was smarter, I would have gotten a degree in like graphic design or something before I even tried this. But
I can see that.
I'm more of a jump into the pool and see what happens kind of guy. So I don't regret it.
Right on. All right, so we are over time. Not that this is a strict time, but I try to keep these at 1 hour.
Sure.
So, any closing remarks?
Go buy my book. You'll love it.
I want to address the great indoors over here. Brought up Mark Z. Danielewski's debut, House of Leaves. I will not be choosing that for a book club because it's simply too long. I learned my lesson with Catch-22. A lot of people were a little frustrated trying to get that done in 1 month.
Yeah.
So that said, I own it. I plan to read it. That might actually be like a series of videos as like a read along of House of Leaves. Because apparently it's like incredibly complicated.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've seen there was a somebody made like a Doom version of House of Leaves or something like that. I was like, what is this House of Leaves? And they went into this story about it was pretty incredible. It was pretty neat. And that was the first time I'd even heard of this House of Leaves stuff. So I have to look into it further.
I'm kind of looking forward to reading it, but right now I'm reading this that I got from Sursova actually.
What is that?
It's a short little pocket pulp nice. That I'm actually rather enjoying.
I did not realize how much I liked pulp, so I went and listened to partially on your advice, but also Razor Fist of Elric. I went through a ton of Elric audiobooks. Love the style. I've been listening to a bunch of Conan as well. Let's see, and then I was listening to that, and then I switched to the Dragonlance novels. And like just the writing styles are way different. You know what I mean?
I've never read Dragonlance, even though I
really like pulp
for years.
I read them back when I was a teenager and fell in love with them. Now reading, listening to and reading them again and stuff, I see things that I didn't before. So it's pretty interesting.
Cool.
It's interesting to go back to old books that you read.
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I'm calling this a sign off. Chat, thank you for joining. Please drop a like. I see plenty of you did. And if you like the sound of this book club, the links to the Gilded is in the description. Cheers.
Yeah, right on.